Good afternoon. Today I'm going to be making a tier list of all the presidents of the United States. A couple quick things before we get started. At the end of the day, this list is really just my opinion. I know things can get a little bit heated when it comes to politics, but I'm eager to hear your opinions in the comments and let me know if you have any different thoughts on any of these important historical figures. The other thing, too, is I'm not really going to have time to cover everyone here today. I'm just going to focus on some of the more important presidents. But let me know if your favorite gets omitted, and I may make a follow up with them included. So let's go ahead and get started with the very first president. Now, George Washington was our first president, and he actually set the precedent for everyone who would precede him, which is a pretty important job there. But you have to keep in mind a lot of other presidents followed his example, and we can really kind of look to him for some of the actions taken by presidents down the line. Next up, we have John Adams, and similar to Washington, Adams would actually set the precedent for all vice presidents. He was the first United States vice president. Next up, we have Thomas Jefferson. Now, he is actually responsible for the Louisiana Purchase. He played a big role in that. You may have heard about that. Lewis and Clark, all that stuff. But really, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have Arkansas. So next up, this is Benjamin Franklin, and he's not actually president. So he never was. He was in the dollar, a little deceptive there. Next up, we have James Madison. So you may know that James Madison is on the $5,000 bill, but so is everyone else. I mean, look at the back of that thing. He doesn't even have a building on the back like some of these other guys. I think that's kind of, it speaks for itself. They could have, honestly, they could have put something like Madison Square Garden on there. And the thing about that is Madison Square Garden isn't even a square. And I'm just going to say this, all right? Madison, that's a girl's name, all right? Next up, we've got James Monroe. So he was responsible for the Monroe Doctrine. And the problem with that is, well, if you're not familiar with the Monroe Doctrine, basically, it kind of kept all these powers out of the Americas, so like South America, Mexico, things like that. But things could have gone a lot differently with Brazil if he hadn't done that. And I'm just going to let you kind of stew over that and make your own conclusions, but that's kind of why yeah. So John Quincy Adams, all right, he's the relative of John Adams. And let me put it this way. If you have to differentiate yourself from someone else by adding Quincy to your name, yeah. Andrew Jackson, 3 words, all right. Trail of Tears. I mean, this is a tier list, but, I mean, come on. Martin Van Buren. So, most of the quotes from Van Buren about how he wishes he was more like Andrew Jackson. And can you imagine if that's what you were known for? I'm doing my best, but I just wish I was more like Andrew Jackson. I almost pity him too much to put him in F tier, like give him a pity D tier, but no. So William Henry Harrison, you probably know this guy. If you're familiar with him, you know that he died before he really got anything accomplished. So next up is John Tyler. Not a great president, but to be fair, I mean, how are you going to follow up this guy? So yeah, he's going to go in the F tier here. So James K. Polk comes after John Tyler, and now he actually, sort of like Jefferson, he added a lot of territory to the United States, and that's pretty impressive. But the 2 territories he really got were New Mexico and California. Now, a bit of a controversial choice. They're picking up California. Not really sure how much that's really helped us in the long run. But you think, well, at least he probably got a good deal on it, right? Well, he paid $15 million for it, which really, like, when you think about it, that's almost worth it. But keep in mind the time period. Looking at inflation, that's about 562, $1 million wasted on California. And we went to war for this. So I feel like, he should have at least gotten like a warranty or something. Now, he did pick up New Mexico, and that's going to keep him from the bottom of this list because, if it wasn't for New Mexico, we wouldn't have Breaking Bad. But for that reason, top of F tier. All right, next up, we've got Zachary Taylor. Now, here's the thing about Zachary Taylor. Nickname, Old Hickory. Yep, that's real. Kind of sounds like a nickname you give to like a three-legged cat. I mean, if you're president of the United States, you could have a nickname, and you waste it on something like that. I think it speaks for itself. Next up here, we got Millard Fillmore. Yeah, I didn't think this guy was real either. Our 13th president. Yeah, Millard Fillmore. Just gonna put him right there. Franklin Pierce. He was known for trying to prevent the Civil War, which is a pretty noble cause. Now, how good was he at that? Oh, that's right. James Buchanan, the incel president. Abraham Lincoln. So a lot of people really like Abraham Lincoln, and I kind of get it, but he couldn't have really been that good. He did get shot after all. So yeah. Now Jefferson Davis, again, one of those that's not really been a president. He was actually president of the Confederacy. He went to war, and eventually, as you know, the Confederacy collapsed. And because of this, he's really the only president to have ever lost a war. And for that, I'm going to have to put him in after probably the worst thing he's ever done was, that. So Andrew Johnson, now this is an interesting one. He was the first impeached president. And did you know they actually sold tickets to his impeachment trial? That's pretty cool. But really the only gripe I have with him is he could have really made that a tradition. You really could have made a really show of like just impeaching presidents, have put on like a show, like a whole, and he really didn't follow through. So for that, I'm gonna have to leave it in F tier. Not enough commitment to that. So now Ulysses S. Grant, I was originally gonna put him, like A, B tier, but I learned that a lot of his alcoholism was likely greatly exaggerated. I was going to give him some points for running the country drunk, but that's just kind of lame. So moving on here, Rutherford B. Hayes, the bearded president. Now, he's one of those presidents that you only know because he has a beard. Now, I have a beard as well myself. You can't see it, but trust me on this one. And let me put it this way. If you're the guy with a beard and that's all anyone remembers you for, probably not great. So Garfield here, now he hates Mondays, loves lasagna. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're an idiot. That's Garfield the cat, not the former president of the United States. Everyone knows that. Okay, so I just told you two things about Garfield the cat. All right, can you tell me two things about former President James Abraham Garfield, other than the fact that he used to be president? Did you even know this guy was assassinated? Yep, at least Lincoln, he got 4 years in before he got shot. This guy got 4 months. I mean, yeah, no, can't go any higher than that. Chester A. Arthur. All right, Chester A. Arthur. So I had to look him up on history.com, and so this guy was born in Vermont, moved to New York, started working as a lawyer. All right, shaky start there. And then here we go. So now the biggest thing I found out about him from all my searching was that before he moved to the White House, Chester Arthur hired designers and stained glass artist Louis Comfort Tiffany to redecorate the staterooms. During the process, more than 20 wagon loads of furnishing from previous presidential administrations were cleared at and auctioned off. Wow, that's really fascinating. Let's give it up to Chester, the HGTV president. So, yeah, that's pretty lame. Anyways, Grover Cleveland. Now, I am going to put him in F tier, but I am going to elaborate a bit on him later. There was he served, and then Benjamin Harrison served, and as you'll see, he serves again. So I'll kind of elaborate that when we get back to him. Now, Benjamin Harrison, to be fair, if you're Harrison, hard to follow up this guy, right? So put him in there. Now, for the reasons I explained earlier with Grover Cleveland, I'm going to put him on the bottom here. So William McKinley. So this is actually the third time a president is assassinated. All right, we're like 20 some presidents in, and you've had three of these guys bite the bullet. It's you know there's a reason for that. All right, you don't get like this mad at the people working at Costco. All right, so let me put it this way: fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me three times, you're President McKinley. Screw up this quote, and you're President Bush. So next important one here is let's see here, the mustache. Ah, yeah. So William H. Taft. So did you know that Taft was also a member of the Supreme Court? Uh, Woodrow Wilson. Ah, yeah, this guy. Okay. Remember Prohibition? All right, you remember that? Well, that happened under this guy's presidency. He vetoed it, and it still happened. So if you can't stop Americans, of all people, from making alcohol illegal, what kind of president are you? Our country was founded by alcohol. Now, this kind of might sound a bit exaggerated. I mean, founded by alcohol. I mean, we can't even drink until the age of 21 in this country. Most countries have a lower drinking age. But you realize that only exists to make drinking in the US cooler. I mean, right? It isn't cool to drink in Italy at 20, but in the US, yeah, it's cool to drink at 20 because you're not supposed to be doing it. And remember, George Washington, he didn't fight in the Orange Juice Rebellion or the Capri Sun Roaring Waters Rebellion. It was the Whiskey Rebellion. The only thing Grant is known for doing as president was drinking, even though he didn't really do that. But I mean, America's the birthplace of the Long Island iced tea. There isn't a Long Island in Canada. I mean, like, come on. I think this guy easily earned his spot down in F tier, so I'm gonna put him there. So next up, here's a pop quiz for you guys. This is Warren G. Harding. Now, tell me one good thing about Warren G. Harding. Go. All right, that's what I thought. Time's up. Anyways, Calvin Coolidge. So he endorsed the creation of Mount Rushmore. And if this tier list has taught you anything, all right, who all is on Mount Rushmore? All right, a lot of people seem to be floating around in this spot. So I'm just going to slide him in there. Herbert Hoover. Let's let this sink in for a minute. All right, we let a guy named Herbert Hoover run this country. Why? FDR. Ah, no. This guy. Talk about overstaying your welcome. Easy spot for them. Harry S. Truman. He's an interesting character. At one point, this guy was probably one of the most powerful men in the world. And he actually dropped 2 atomic bombs on the nation of Japan. But here's the thing. He could have really dropped those anywhere he wanted. And he only dropped 2, like only 2. And on Japan, of all places? I mean, come on. Arkansas. Right there, buddy. Dwight D. Eisenhower. This guy couldn't even win a campaign using his real name. All right, F tier. JFK. Now, what does JFK really bring to the table? I know he's pretty popular, right? But there's nothing really unique about him. I mean, really, so everything he tried to do, another president did it better. And, as you can see, if a president's outdoing you, I mean, come on. So let's look at some of this stuff. So getting shot, he was assassinated. All right, 3 presidents already pulled that stunt. All right, it's getting kind of old at this point. Getting shot in a car, all right, that's a little different. The other guys, Lincoln was in a theater, but this is the first one shot in a car. Okay, well, Archduke Franz Ferdinand did it, and it started a world war. Really? This guy gets shot, and it's just whatever, just let the next guy float in. And thinking of that, other things too, sex scandals. I mean, Clinton he outdid him later down the line. Speaking of the funny voice, well, Nixon had that covered. Using his initials, I mean, next guy, LBJ, much, much funnier than JFK. I mean, he's the only Catholic president, but Catholicism really isn't a personality trait. So I'm gonna kind of have to, sorry, but yeah. Hey, LBJ. That's all I have to say. Richard Nixon. It's kind of okay. I can't really think of any controversies from this guy, but there's one thing that kind of holds him back. One little incident. So this guy's actually born in California, so I'll leave him there. Gerald Ford. Now, who thought becoming president would become a walk-on job? Like this guy just shows up. I mean, the presidency for this guy is crazy. It's basically the plot to a romantic comedy about becoming the president. Like, oh no, we can't have this guy be president anymore. He's from California. We got to get someone else to do it. Well, who's going to do it? Well, we've got to find someone to do it. Um, well, I don't want to do it. There's a 10% chance all these guys are getting shot. We've got 4 presidents been shot. And there's only been 30 something of them. I'd rather work at Costco, man. Well, I know. I got my buddy Gerald. He'll do it for us. Gerald, I don't know. You sure he's qualified? Well, we were football buddies back in college. He was good at it, even had the chance to go pro, but turned down the offer and went to law school instead. I don't know. That seems like a pretty bad choice. You went to law school instead of playing pro football. I mean, come on, what was his offer? Well, it was to the Detroit Lions. So this guy was a pretty good decision maker. And, pretty solid. But the thing about it is, all right, he didn't put in the effort to be elected. I can't really give him any higher than this. So now I'll move him to the top of F tier, but that's where he's going to have to stay, unfortunately. So Jimmy Carter. I was really surprised, but apparently this guy's still alive. That's, Ronald Reagan. Now, I was going to really focus on things that people did in the White House, when they were president. But let me put it this way. If you've seen this guy's acting, yeah, you'd put him in an F tier too. Okay. Bill Clinton comes after H.W. Bush. Let's get this guy. Okay. So he was 2 presidents before the guy that did 9/11. Does that mean he did 7/11? No, it doesn't. So now we got Clinton. So remember how I laughed earlier about Herbert Hoover? Yeah, it was kind of silly, oh, a guy named Herbert Hoover. What were you thinking? That's kind of silly. It's even more outlandish, though. Where this guy's from? Arkansas. Yeah. So George W. Bush doesn't care about black people, so I'm going to have to put him here. Barack Obama. Okay, a lot of people really like this guy. Let me put it this way. If he is so great, how come my wife left me? All right, F tier. Donald Trump. I think that's who this is. Haven't really heard of this guy before. I looked him up a little bit beforehand. Really couldn't find anything on it. Apparently it was all fake. I'm just gonna put him here just to be safe. I don't really know. And then of course we have our most recent president, Joe Biden. I really had high hopes for this guy. I thought he would live up to William Henry Harrison, perhaps even outperform him. But he's still alive, so I'm gonna put him in F tier for now. But if he keeps saying funny things, you might see a bit of an improvement. So that's really all I have for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll look forward to my next video where I don't know, I'll do something.